Now that the spoiler ban has been lifted and I've actually seen the film, that's probably a little more important. I want to talk today about Avengers Endgame. Now, I don't think I need to tell you who directed it, who's in it, any of that, because I'd only give a short list and I think everyone who was involved in this did a great job. So I'm not going to single out certain performers. Maybe later in the video. Maybe. But this was the culmination of many years of films. Many arcs have been set up over the last decade that have come to a conclusion now as people's contracts have run out. And also we have the setup for the future. Those who have joined later on who still have a few contract obligations left to fulfill, and potentially, they may extend them. And those who have bowed out aren't necessarily gone for good. There are scenarios in which they could come back. But this was definitely, I think, an audience film. I say that because my experience was shared with 6 other people. And those big cheering moments, because there are a few, just didn't work. It was great, I still enjoyed it. But I think with an audience, that energy would have made it somewhat better. There are certain films that are like this. Horror films are great for it, because you can kind of laugh at other people jumping out of their seats. That kind of thing can obviously enrich your experience. And like I say, for this, I think having a full auditorium where, everyone's cheering and kind of being amazed, it does work so much better. And laughing at the jokes. I heard like one chuckle off from the opposite side of the room at one point, and that was it. So I think it was a bit disappointing from that angle. But that doesn't mean that the film itself was any less entertaining. I can still enjoy films on my own. It's just being in the cinema environment without that many people, I think, just made some of it feel a little flat. So I can't really blame the filmmakers for that one, though. But the film itself was an emotional journey. We got a cold open, which is unusual for these kind of films. It was just, we're there with Clint on the farm, and the fact that his family was snapped out of existence. I did think that was probably what led him to be the Ronin character, and it was so heartbreaking to see. It was like carrying on. It was reminding you, this is what the stakes are. This is what we've been through. This is the world as it is. People have just disappeared, and people have had to carry on and deal with that. And it's very sad in places like that, when we see the support group, which has a great cameo, of course, from Joe Russo, talking about his husband and things like that. But, these are just people who have to try and carry on. The world hasn't progressed because everyone's still got this shadow of the people they've lost just hanging over them, still. Half the world disappeared in a day. And that's quite difficult to deal with, I think, for a lot of people. But our heroes have to do what they can. And no, Paul Rudd does not shrink and go into Josh Brolin's backside. That would have been hilarious, but many channels have disproven that possibility because of the tensile strength of his intestines. I don't really want to dwell on this. It didn't happen, so it doesn't matter. And of course, after Captain Marvel, we're all probably thinking, well, come on, she's so overpowered, she's probably going to completely take him out. But no, it wasn't left to her. And I think that was great. Rather than having the completely newest character, the one we've only really had introduced a couple of films ago with that pager, and then her own film, can't be the one to destroy Thanos. It can't happen. It has to be everyone together, and then a big heroic sacrifice at the end. But it was great. We got the Professor-style Hulk, which I did learn because of the issues with the rights, sort of being mostly owned by Universal for the Hulk at the moment. They have first say on any ideas for any solo films. So Mark Ruffalo was asked, do you have any idea of a character arc? And he was like, actually, I'd like this. And so they did that over the course of the films that he starred in as a secondary, that including Ragnarok, and everything like that. So this character arc of him struggling with the Hulk after him being in control for so long, then he can't bring him out again, and then finally the two sides merge. That was so that he could basically have a developed character arc that he would have had, say, in a solo film, but without having the issue of Universal saying, "Wait a minute, we want this." And I'm glad they did something, rather than just having him there going, "Okay, clever, brainy idea. Now let's turn into the Hulk. Smash!" For every film he's been in, it would have been disappointing. And it's nice to see that he got the same kind of character development the other characters have managed to have. But I think some of the biggest parts of this film, I've saved till last, because I think they need to be dealt with last. We have the two big tentpoles sort of departing. Chris Evans as Captain America and RDJ as Iron Man. We'll deal with the happy one first, and Steve decides he's going to go and take the stones back, but then spend the time with Peggy. And many people have kind of gone, well, maybe, when she's saying in that sort of film clip of like meeting her husband, it's someone who he saved, maybe that's him. But no, because we are told that it's a branching history. So that isn't the same history. He's not going to be in the same timeline with Peggy, so he's not that person. I would stand by that decision, or stand by that interpretation strongly. But the big moment, really, the "I'm inevitable, I am Iron Man." Poof. That whole snapping Thanos and his armies out of existence, and the whole moment with the team afterwards, and Pepper just saying, "We're safe now, you can rest." That got me. I already had tissues in my bag, but I got them out. I knew I'd need them, and that was a tissue moment. It was such a great ending to the character, and many people have said, well, it isn't necessarily the end. He could come back, either snatched from a different timeline now that we've got the multiverse kind of established. So he could be snatched from another one, or he could be like an AI, kind of like how Jarvis was turned into an AI, that kind of stuff. And if RDJ really wants to do it and Marvel agree, then yeah, find a way. But I think bringing him back might cheapen this sacrifice. I'm being completely honest. I think this was a great send-off to the character. If we're going to have some kind of Iron Man or Iron-related character, either have Riri Williams or maybe make Morgan Stark into a kind of combination of her father and Riri, maybe like an Iron Heart that's slightly different, because Rescue wasn't quite what Pepper Potts was being, because it had offensive weaponry, which doesn't typically happen. So there are ways to further the idea, and the sound at the end of the credits, I think, isn't necessarily saying, oh, Iron Man might return. It's, we're paying tribute, and also maybe some other variation. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. There's so much there, to take in, and so much to think about. And it definitely has been an emotional ride. We finally had Cap being worthy of holding Mjolnir. And Thor's line of "I knew it," it's like we all knew it. Even though the Age of Ultron thing wasn't meant to link into that, they weren't tied at all. But it works. And I want to leave. I don't want to end on like the heroic journey and everything's kind of a bit sad but hopeful. I want to end on something a bit silly. I did see a meme the other day that was saying, like obviously Hulk goes snap, bring everyone back into existence. But what about, and this is specifically the example given in the meme, what about people who were, say, on a plane where they're all fine, but the pilot and co-pilot were snapped out of existence and it crashed? Because indirectly they died as a result of the snap. So would they count, or would they be ignored, even though they wouldn't be dead if the snap hadn't happened? And I haven't come up with a satisfying answer yet, so this is my opening to you. Think about it, figure out what would make that happen, if it could happen. Would those people come back or not? I'd like to know everyone's thoughts on it, because I'm still not sure how that would pan out. But that's all I want to say about Endgame. It's a great culmination of the last decade. It sets up new avenues moving forward with Sam as, you know, Captain America, etc. And it closes off some stories very nicely, so people can get on with their lives away from the Marvel house. But thank you very much for watching this, and, you know, taking the journeys of all the Marvel stuff I've covered and everything else I've covered myself. There's obviously more to come, and I can't wait to cover that too, especially Far From Home. So please join me for that and everything else coming up. But until next time, as always, thanks again for watching, and take care.